I was once a passionate software engineer at TechNova, one of the most prestigious tech companies in Silicon Valley. Coming from a middle-class background in Ohio, I was the first in my family to graduate college. For months, I had been developing a revolutionary app idea that could transform data security forever. My boss, Jackson, seemed supportive, even mentoring me through the development process. I trusted him, completely sharing every breakthrough, every line of code. Little did I know that trust would shatter my career. Tell me where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button before I reveal how my million-dollar idea was stolen right from under me. Growing up in Dayton, Ohio, I was always fascinated by computers. While other kids played sports, I spent countless hours taking apart old desktops my dad brought home from garage sales. By 13, I had built my first computer from salvaged parts. My parents worried about my obsession, but supported me nonetheless, even though they barely understood what I was doing most of the time. College was a struggle financially. I worked 2 jobs while maintaining a full course load in computer science. There were nights I survived on vending machine snacks, coding until sunrise in the university lab because I could not afford a decent laptop. Those struggles made graduation day even sweeter. When TechNova offered me an entry-level position, my parents cried with pride. Their son was moving to California to work for a tech giant. TechNova was everything I had dreamed of and more. The campus was stunning, with modern glass buildings, free gourmet cafeterias, and innovation lurking around every corner. The environment was competitive, but seemingly supportive. Everyone talked about changing the world through technology. I soaked it all in, determined to prove myself worthy of being there. That was when I first met Jackson Williams, my direct supervisor, tall, confident, with salt and pepper hair that made him look distinguished, despite being only in his early 40s. Jackson had a reputation for spotting talent and nurturing it. He had guided several junior developers to leadership positions within the company. When he took interest in my work, I felt honored. My first 6 months at TechNova were filled with small victories. I optimized an internal tool that reduced processing time by 30%. Jackson praised me in team meetings, and I started receiving invitations to higher-level project discussions. My confidence grew with each success. The idea for the security app came to me during a company hackathon. I noticed a fundamental vulnerability in how most applications handled user authentication. What if we could create a dynamic security protocol that adapted to user behavior patterns? It seemed so obvious once I saw it, yet nobody had implemented anything like it before. For the next 3 months, I devoted every spare moment to developing this concept. My social life disappeared. My girlfriend Sophia grew increasingly frustrated with my late nights and distracted demeanor. When she asked about my work, I could barely simplify it enough to explain why it excited me so much. The strain in our relationship was evident, but I convinced myself it was temporary. Once I completed this project, everything would change. Jackson noticed my increased hours and asked what had me so captivated. Initially, I shared only vague concepts protective of my idea, but as his interest grew genuine, I began revealing more details. His background was in security protocols, making his insights invaluable. Our conversations evolved from brief hallway exchanges to lengthy whiteboard sessions after hours. Those moments solidified my trust in Jackson. He seemed genuinely invested in helping me succeed. He shared stories of his own early career struggles and offered advice on navigating corporate politics. He became more than a boss. He was a mentor, even something of a friend. After 2 more months of refinement, I had a working prototype. The algorithm was elegant, the user interface intuitive, and initial tests showed remarkable effectiveness against common security threats. Jackson suggested I prepare a formal proposal to present to the executive team. His guidance on the presentation was meticulous, helping me highlight the market potential while downplaying potential developmental challenges. When I finally revealed the complete concept to Jackson, his eyes widened with what I interpreted as admiration. He praised the innovation, calling it potentially revolutionary for the industry. He promised to help secure the resources I needed to move it from prototype to product. His enthusiasm reinforced my belief that TechNova was where great ideas could flourish. I went home that night, feeling like my career was about to launch into the stratosphere. The shift in our dynamic was almost imperceptible at first. Jackson began rescheduling our regular meetings, citing conflicts with executive commitments. When we did meet, he seemed distracted, checking his phone frequently and asking me to repeat information I had already shared. I told myself he was busy, that his sudden distance did not mean anything concerning. 2 weeks after sharing my complete proposal, I noticed Jackson in the glass-walled conference room with Senior Vice President Thomas and the Head of Product Development, Angela Kim. This pairing was unusual. Thomas rarely involved himself in projects until they were near market ready. More concerning was that I had never seen Jackson present to executives without including the team members involved in the project being discussed. Office whispers about a secret new security initiative began circulating. Philip from back-end development mentioned overhearing Angela discussing a revolutionary new authentication system. When I asked if he knew more details, he quickly changed the subject, avoiding eye contact in a way that left me unsettled. My team received an invitation to the monthly project review meeting, standard procedure for all ongoing work at TechNova. I prepared updates on my security app progress, eager to share recent improvements. Minutes before the meeting, my calendar notification disappeared. Confused, I emailed the coordinator, who informed me that Jackson had said my presence was not required as my project had been deprioritized. Determined to understand what was happening, I accessed the shared drive where meeting notes were stored. Buried in a folder labeled Horizon Projects, I discovered a preliminary specification document for Project Sentinel, a new security authentication system. As I read through the technical details, my blood ran cold. The core algorithms were identical to mine, with only variable names changed. Certain paragraphs were word-for-word copies of my proposal, down to the analogies I had used to explain complex concepts. I printed the document and walked directly to Jackson, hands trembling with a mixture of confusion and rage. His office door was closed, but I could see him through the glass alone at his desk. I knocked and entered, without waiting for a response. When confronted with the evidence, Jackson did not even bother to appear surprised. He leaned back in his chair, studying me with cold calculation before speaking. He claimed the similarities were coincidental, that secure authentication was a common development goal with limited approach variations. When I pointed to the identical phrasing, he suggested I had perhaps been influenced by company documents I had read previously. The gaslighting continued as he questioned whether the idea had truly originated with me at all. After all, I had used company resources for research and development. Legally, any work created on company time belonged to TechNova. His tone remained calm, reasonable, even making me doubt my own position despite the evidence in my hands. I left his office feeling disoriented, questioning whether I was overreacting. That night, I called my friend Marcus, who worked in a different department, and explained the situation. His hesitation was obvious. While he sympathized with my predicament, he urged caution about making accusations against someone as influential as Jackson. The tech industry was smaller than it seemed, and being labeled difficult could follow me long after leaving TechNova. When I told Sophia about the situation expecting support, she suggested I might be seeing patterns that were not there. Perhaps she offered Jackson had been developing similar ideas independently. Her skepticism hurt worse than the betrayal itself. The distance between us widened further. The next day, I arrived early to organize my thoughts and plan my next steps. Passing by Jackson's office on my way to the break room, I noticed his door slightly ajar. The room was empty. On his desk lay copies of my original proposal with sections highlighted and annotated. A presentation deck sat open on his laptop, visible from where I stood. The title slide read, Sentinel Security Revolutionizing Authentication in the Digital Age. Presenter Jackson Williams. I took photos with my phone documenting the evidence. Later that day, a company-wide email announced Jackson would be presenting a major new security initiative at the quarterly executive briefing. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. My work performance began suffering as I obsessed over the theft of my idea. Code reviews that once earned praise now returned with lists of suggested improvements. Tasks that would have taken me hours now consumed days as I struggled to focus. Jackson noted my declining output in our team status updates, his concern appearing genuine to everyone except me. Colleagues began avoiding extended conversations with me, sensing something was amiss but unwilling to become involved. Lunch invitations stopped. Group chats fell silent when I joined. The isolation compounded my stress, creating a vicious cycle of decreased productivity and increased paranoia. My annual performance review, previously scheduled with Jackson, was reassigned to Angela Kim, who had never directly supervised my work. She cited concerns about my recent output ability to collaborate and alignment with company goals. When I attempted to explain the circumstances affecting my performance, she cut me off, stating she was not interested in excuses. The review ended with a formal warning in my file. 3 such warnings could result in termination. The message was clear. The company-wide announcement came on a Tuesday morning. All employees were required to attend a special presentation in the main auditorium. The email mentioned a revolutionary product that would position TechNova as the industry leader in digital security for the next decade. I sat in the back row, already knowing what I was about to witness. The CEO introduced Jackson with glowing praise, highlighting his vision and dedication to innovation. The giant screen behind him displayed the Sentinel logo, a stylized shield I had sketched in my notebook months earlier. For 40 excruciating minutes, I watched Jackson present my work as his own. The authentication protocols, the adaptive learning algorithms, the streamlined user experience, all stolen from my proposal with minimal modifications. He used my examples, my data points, even jokes I had included in my documentation. Each slide felt like a physical blow. When the audience erupted in applause at the conclusion, something broke inside me. I stumbled to the nearest restroom and locked myself in a stall, struggling to breathe through waves of panic and rage. Everything I had sacrificed for all those nights away from Sophia, the strain on my health, the missed family events, all of it had been for nothing. Someone else would reap the rewards of my innovation, while I sat forgotten in a bathroom stall. After composing myself, I decided to speak directly with Thomas, the senior vice president. His assistant blocked my attempt, stating he was in meetings all day following the announcement. I emailed him requesting 10 minutes of his time regarding Project Sentinel. His response was brief. All Sentinel questions should be directed to the project lead Jackson Williams. Desperate for some form of justice, I scheduled a meeting with Human Resources. The representative Linda listened to my story with practiced neutrality, taking occasional notes. When I finished presenting my evidence, including the photos from Jackson's office, she explained that intellectual property disputes were complicated. Without a paper trail proving I had independently developed the concept before sharing it with Jackson, my position was weak. Furthermore, she reminded me that my employment contract specified all work created during my employment belonged to TechNova. Before I left, Linda mentioned that making unfounded accusations against senior management could be viewed as creating a hostile work environment. Her tone was sympathetic, but the threat was unmistakable. The system was designed to protect the company and its leadership, not a junior engineer with a grievance. The final confrontation with Jackson occurred 2 days later. I found him alone in the conference room after hours reviewing market projections for Sentinel. When I entered, he did not seem surprised to see me. Perhaps he had been expecting this moment. This time there was no pretense. He admitted taking my idea, but justified it as a business necessity. According to him, I lacked the experience and political savvy to shepherd such an important project through the corporate hierarchy. He claimed to have protected me by keeping my name out of it entirely. Had the project failed, my reputation would remain intact. When I asked why he could not have included me, given me credit as part of the team, he smiled with patronizing patience. We both knew Sentinel would generate millions in revenue and launch whoever led it into the executive ranks. There was no incentive to share that glory. His parting words haunted me for months afterward. In this industry, ideas are currency. You freely gave yours away. Consider it an expensive lesson in corporate reality. The termination notice arrived by email the following morning before I even reached my desk. It cited ongoing performance issues and failure to maintain the collaborative spirit essential to TechNova culture. Security was waiting by my desk with a cardboard box for personal items. 30 minutes later, I stood in the parking lot, watching the building that had once represented my dreams fade in the rearview mirror. The financial impact was immediate and severe. California rent consumed most of my savings within 3 months. Job interviews proved challenging, as I could not use Jackson as a reference and struggled to explain my abrupt departure from TechNova without sounding bitter or unprofessional. The final blow came when Sophia moved out. She said she could not handle my depression and constant anger about TechNova. She needed someone present, someone with ambition and positivity, someone like the man I had been before all this happened. Former colleagues stopped responding to messages. Industry friends became suddenly busy whenever I suggested meeting. It was as if I had contracted something contagious. In many ways I had. Failure and resentment radiated from me, repelling the very connections I desperately needed. 6 months after leaving TechNova, I hit rock bottom. Watching the announcement of Sentinel going to market with rave reviews from industry analysts, I questioned whether I should abandon tech entirely. Perhaps I was not cut out for this world, where brilliant ideas meant nothing without the power to protect them. For 2 weeks, I barely left my apartment, surviving on delivery food and sleeping at irregular hours. My routine consisted of refreshing job boards, without applying watching mindless television, and drafting angry emails to TechNova executives that I never sent. Rock bottom has a unique clarity. With nothing left to lose, decisions become simpler. I could surrender to bitterness, or find a way forward. The turning point arrived unexpectedly at Downtown Coffee, where I had gone simply to escape my apartment walls. While waiting for my order, I overheard a woman at the next table discussing intellectual property rights in the technology sector. Her articulate breakdown of a recent patent dispute caught my attention. When she finished her call, I introduced myself and asked if she specialized in tech IP law. Taylor Martinez did indeed, working for a boutique firm, representing startups against established companies. Our brief conversation extended to lunch when she expressed interest in my TechNova experience. Unlike others, she listened without dismissing my claims or suggesting I move on. After hearing the complete story, Taylor believed I had a legitimate case, particularly due to the photographic evidence I had gathered. While my employment contract gave TechNova rights to my work, the company still had an obligation not to discriminate or terminate employees unjustly. The fact that Jackson had presented my work as his own, then facilitated my removal, potentially constituted wrongful termination. Her interest reinvigorated something I had lost. While legal proceedings might take years with uncertain outcomes, the validation from a professional that I had been wronged mattered immensely. That night, I began cataloging everything I remembered about my original proposal, creating a timeline of events with whatever documentation I still possessed. My investigation led me to contact Aaron, a former TechNova colleague who had also left the company recently. Hesitant at first, he eventually admitted witnessing Jackson taking credit for my early prototypes in meetings where I was not present. He agreed to provide a written statement detailing what he had observed, though he refused to testify in person, fearing industry backlash. Similar conversations with three other former colleagues yielded additional perspectives on the systematic way Jackson had isolated and discredited me while promoting my work as his own. Each statement strengthened my case, forming a pattern of behavior too consistent to dismiss as coincidence. The most significant breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Philip, who still worked at TechNova, contacted me through an anonymous email account. He had access to the version control system and had discovered early commits of the Sentinel codebase that still contained comments with my name and coding style before they were scrubbed clean. He could not risk his job by going on record, but provided screenshots showing the chronology of these changes. Taylor advised filing for provisional patents on improvements I had developed since leaving TechNova. While the core idea might be lost, I could still protect my innovations on the next iteration. These patents would serve both as legal protection and leverage in any settlement discussions. Nights and weekends became dedicated to building an enhanced version of my security application. I addressed limitations in the original design and incorporated new authentication methods that made Sentinel look obsolete by comparison. Working without corporate resources forced creative problem-solving that actually improved the final product. The legal complaint Taylor filed focused on wrongful termination and intellectual property theft. TechNova initially responded with dismissive legal language and counter-threats. Their first settlement offer was insultingly low, with strict non-disclosure requirements. We rejected it without hesitation. While the legal battle progressed slowly, I focused on developing a working prototype to demonstrate at industry conferences. A small angel investment from a former professor provided enough funding to incorporate my own company, Secure Ford Technologies. The name was my small act of defiance, ensuring my identity would be permanently linked to my innovation. 6 months of networking and cold calling finally resulted in a meeting with venture capital firm Altitude Partners. Their senior partner, James Wilson, saw potential in both the technology and my David versus Goliath story. Their initial investment allowed me to hire 2 developers and accelerate product development. The press caught wind of the lawsuit when court filings became public record. TechCrunch published an article titled, "Employee Claims TechNova Stole $1 Million Security Idea." While TechNova issued standard denials, the story resonated within tech circles, where similar experiences were common but rarely challenged publicly. As media interest grew, TechNova stock experienced minor volatility. Investors questioned the originality of Sentinel and other flagship products. Internal sources reported Jackson facing increased scrutiny from board members concerned about potential damages to company reputation. When our improved security solution launched in beta with 3 mid-size clients' industry reviews highlighted innovations absent from Sentinel, the validation was sweeter than any revenge I could have imagined. My small team accomplished in months what TechNova predicted would take years. The settlement offer arrived 18 months after my termination. TechNova proposed financial compensation exceeding $2 million retraction of negative employment records and a carefully worded public statement acknowledging my contributions to early security research that influenced Sentinel. In exchange, they required confidentiality regarding settlement details and relinquishment of further claims. After consultation with Taylor and my investors, I accepted. While the statement fell short of admitting theft, the financial compensation and public acknowledgment provided sufficient vindication. The funds allowed Secure Ford to expand operations without sacrificing additional equity. The following 2 years transformed my fledgling startup into a respected security solutions provider. Our client base grew to include financial institutions and healthcare providers impressed by our adaptive authentication protocols. Industry publications featured our approach as innovative, often contrasting it favorably with TechNova Sentinel, which had stagnated without my ongoing improvements. My perspective on success evolved throughout this journey. The betrayal that once consumed my thoughts became merely a chapter in a larger story. The team I built shared credit equally for innovations, creating a collaborative culture intentionally opposite to what I had experienced at TechNova. Former colleagues began reaching out about job opportunities drawn by our reputation for ethical leadership. Sophia contacted me after reading about our Series B funding round. Her congratulatory message was polite but distant. The person she described in her email, the driven innovator, making headlines, sounded nothing like the bitter, defeated man she had left. Perhaps we were both right in our assessments. People can be simultaneously broken and becoming. The most unexpected encounter occurred at the annual Security Solutions Conference in Austin. While waiting for my keynote speaking slot, I found myself face-to-face with Jackson in the speaker's lounge. Time had not been kind to him. The distinguished salt and pepper had given way to complete gray, his confident posture replaced by the slight stoop of someone under constant pressure. Recognition flashed across his face, followed by something resembling shame. Before either of us spoke, an event coordinator called him for his session, saving us both from a conversation neither was prepared for. His presentation on Sentinel updates received polite applause. My session on next-generation authentication played to a standing-room-only crowd. Later reports indicated Jackson had been reassigned from Sentinel to smaller initiatives with less visibility. Whether due to our legal settlement or the product underperforming projections remained unclear, the corporate ladder he climbed using my innovation had proven unstable. The greatest irony was how the betrayal ultimately benefited my career trajectory. Had Jackson collaborated honestly, I might still be a mid-level engineer at TechNova, receiving modest recognition for contributing to a successful product. The pain of his betrayal forced me to build something entirely mine, answerable to no one corporate agenda. This realization led to the creation of the Secure Forward Innovators program, providing resources and legal protection for developers with promising security concepts. The program particularly focuses on supporting those without connections or privilege who might otherwise see their innovations appropriated by larger entities. Each participant receives equity in their creation and mentorship in both technical and business aspects. My approach to mentorship now emphasizes protection of intellectual contributions alongside technical guidance. Every team member receives proper attribution in patents and publications, regardless of seniority. This policy has attracted exceptional talent, tired of watching their work attributed to executives who contributed nothing but authority. Surprisingly, I eventually found myself capable of gratitude toward Jackson, not for his actions, but for the harsh education they provided. The betrayal stripped away naive notions about corporate loyalty and forced me to define success on my own terms. Without that painful lesson, I might never have discovered my capacity for rebuilding from nothing. The freedom that comes from surviving your worst-case scenario is profound. Having lost everything professionally and personally, then reconstructed a life exceeding my original ambitions, I no longer fear failure or betrayal. This resilience attracts authentic relationships, both personal and professional, based on mutual respect rather than utility. Perhaps the most valuable lesson came in learning to release the anger that once defined me. Holding on to resentment was like drinking poison daily, expecting Jackson to suffer the effects. Letting go did not mean forgetting or excusing his actions. It meant refusing to allow his betrayal to determine my future happiness. Have you ever had your trust betrayed by someone you respected? How did you overcome it, and what lessons did you learn? Share your story in the comments below. If this journey of fighting back against corporate theft resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe for more real-life experiences. Your support helps this channel continue sharing stories that might otherwise go untold. Remember, sometimes our greatest setbacks lead to unexpected opportunities when we refuse to stay defeated. Thank you for listening, and I wish you the strength to turn your own challenges into stepping stones towards something better than you originally imagined.